This is Plant-Based Briefing, Bird Flu, Emergence, Dangers, and Preventive Measures, Part 2 by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. This is the Plant-Based Podcast where I curate a variety of articles on plant-based and vegan living, get permission, and narrate them to you here in about 10 minutes or less every weekday. But this article was longer, so I broke it into two parts. I read Part 1 yesterday, so go back and listen to that first, and then jump back here for Part 2. And now let's get to today's Plant-Based Briefing. Bird Flu, Emergence, Dangers, and Preventive Measures, Part 2 by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. Mutating and getting more virulent. Within a single individual, a virus evolves, adapts, and learns. It hits dead ends and tries something new, slowly notching up mutations that may lock into place the ability to effectively survive in and transmit between people. Every single person who gets infected presents a risk of spawning the pandemic virus. Describes one virologist, you're playing Russian roulette every time you have a human infection. Experts fear that as more and more people become infected, a virus will finally figure out the right combination of mutations to spread not just in one elevator or building, but in every building, everywhere around the globe. Then it won't just be peasant farmers in Vietnam dying after handling dead birds or raw poultry. It will be New Yorkers, Parisians, Londoners, and people in every city, township, and village in the world dying after shaking someone's hand, touching a doorknob, or simply inhaling in the wrong place at the wrong time. It's happened before, and it may soon happen again. Said a World Health Organization spokesperson about a virus like H5N1, all the indications are that we are living on borrowed time. A senior associate at the Center for Biosecurity listed the indications. The lethality of the virus is unprecedented for influenza, the scope of the bird outbreak is completely unprecedented, and the change that needs to happen to create a pandemic is such a small change, it could literally happen any day. Never before H5N1 had bird flu spread so far, so fast, and the longer the virus circulates in poultry production systems, the higher the likelihood of additional human exposure. Can H5N1 be eradicated? H5N1 may be here to stay. The virus cannot now be eradicated from the planet, said Center for Biosecurity Director O'Toole. It is in too many birds in too many places. The virus seemed to be getting more entrenched. If you described it as a war, we've been losing more battles than we've won, a World Health Organization spokesperson told the Financial Times. From a public health point of view and an animal health point of view, this virus is just getting a stronger and stronger grip on the region. In a tone uncharacteristic of international policy institutions, the FAO wrote, "Over this bleak landscape sits a black cloud of fear that the virus might become adapted to enable human-to-human transmission and then spread around the globe." The urgency and alarm among those tracking H5N1's building momentum was palpable. "It's like watching a volcano getting ready to erupt," described a spokesperson of the World Organization for Animal Health. "We're all holding our breath," said Julie Gerberding, former head of the CDC. Breeding grounds for disease. The world's three leading authorities, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, the World Health Organization, and the World Organization for Animal Health, had a joint consultation in 2004 to determine the key underlying causes. Four main risk factors for the emergence and spread of these diseases were identified. Bulleted first, increasing demand for animal protein. This has led to what the CDC refers to as the intensification of food animal production, the factor blamed in part for the increasing threat. The way we kept animals when we first domesticated them 10,000 years ago is a far cry from how they are reared today. Chickens used to run around the barnyard on small farms. Now, broiler chickens, those raised for meat, are typically warehoused in long sheds confining an average of 20 to 25,000 birds. A single corporation, Tyson, can churn out more than 20 million pounds of chicken meat a day. Worldwide, an estimated 70 to 80% of egg-laying chickens are intensively confined in battery cages, small barren wire enclosures stacked several tiers high and extending down long rows in windowless sheds. The cages are stocked at such densities that each hen is typically allotted less floor space than a standard letter-sized piece of paper. It is not uncommon for egg producers to keep hundreds of thousands or even 1 million hens confined on a single farm. Half the world's pig population, now approaching 1 billion, is also crowded into industrial confinement operations. This represents the most profound alteration of the animal-human relationship in 10,000 years. What can we do? To reduce the emergence of viruses like H5N1, humanity must shift toward raising birds in smaller flocks under less stressful, less crowded, and more hygienic conditions, with outdoor access, no use of human antivirals, and with an end to the practice of breeding for rapid growth or unnatural egg production at the expense of immunity. This would also be expected to reduce rates of increasingly antibiotic-resistant pathogens such as Salmonella, the #1 foodborne killer in the United States. We need to move away from the industry's firefighting approach to infectious disease to a more proactive, preventive health approach that makes birds less susceptible, even resilient, to disease in the first place. In the United States, the American Public Health Association, APHA, is among those advocating for radical, from the Latin radix for root, change. In 2003, the APHA passed a precautionary moratorium on new concentrated animal feed operations, in which it urged all federal, state, and local authorities to impose an immediate moratorium on the building of new factory farms, including industrial turkey, laying hen, broiler chicken, and duck facilities. In November 2019, it reiterated its stance, publishing a new policy statement calling once again for a moratorium on new factory farms, as well as a moratorium on the expansion of existing ones. Eating to beat bird flu. The Journal of the APHA published an editorial entitled "The Chickens Come Home to Roost" that went beyond just calling for a de-intensification of the pork and poultry industries. The editorial questioned the prudence of raising so many animals for food in the first place, given the pandemic threat that they may pose. It is curious, therefore, that changing the way humans treat animals, most basically ceasing to eat them, or at the very least radically limiting the quantity of them that are eaten, is largely off the radar as a significant preventive measure. Such a change, if sufficiently adopted or imposed, could still reduce the chances of the much-feared influenza epidemic. It would be even more likely to prevent unknown future diseases that, in the absence of this change, may result from farming animals intensively and killing them for food. Yet humanity doesn't even consider this option. However, thanks to food innovations, this may be changing, with plant-based meats, milks, and eggs growing in popularity with expanded options in supermarkets. And making healthier choices could also help mediate the next coronavirus epidemic by also decreasing the rates of comorbidities found to increase the risk in SARS, MERS, and COVID-19. For example, consider the underlying risk factors for COVID-19 severity and death: obesity, heart disease, hypertension, and type 2 diabetes, all of which can be controlled or even reversed with a healthy enough plant-based diet and lifestyle. Egg-free eggs. There are so many delicious egg-free egg recipes, like this garden veggie tempeh scramble, created by nutritionfacts.org's own executive director, linked here. Conclusion. H5N1 was discovered in chickens decades ago, a flu virus that would forever change our understanding of how bad pandemics could get, a flu virus that appears capable of killing half of the people it infects. Imagine if a virus like that started explosively spreading from human to human. Consider a pandemic 100 times worse than COVID-19, one with a fatality rate not of 1 in 200, but rather a coin flip of 1 in 2. Thankfully, H5N1 has so far remained a virus mainly of poultry, not people, but H5N1 and other new and deadly animal viruses like it are still out there, still mutating, with an eye on the 8 billion-strong buffet of human hosts. With pandemics, it's never a matter of if, but when. A universal outbreak with more than a few % mortality wouldn't just threaten financial markets, but civilization itself as we know it. A pandemic triggered by a bird flu virus could leave hundreds of millions dead. An influenza pandemic of even moderate impact, Michael Osterholm, the director of the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, wrote, will result in the biggest single human disaster ever, far greater than AIDS, 9/11, all wars in the 20th century, and the recent tsunami combined. It has the potential to redirect world history as the Black Death redirected European history in the 14th century. Hopefully, for humanity's sake, the direction world history will take is away from raising birds by the billions under intensive confinement so as to potentially lower the risk of us ever being in this same precarious place in the future. The silver lining of COVID-19 is that the world will be better prepared for the next global health crisis. Tragically, it may take a pandemic with a virus like H5N1 before the world realizes the true cost of cheap chicken. You just listened to Bird Flu, Emergence, Dangers, and Preventive Measures, Part 2 by Dr. Michael Greger at nutritionfacts.org. And I'm your host, Marian Erickson. I've done a number of other episodes about avian flu. Wherever you listen, just search for avian flu, bird flu, or H5N1, and those should come up. You could also use the search field at plantbasedbriefing.com. And please share this episode with anyone who might benefit, and thanks for listening.